I move to question number 1 in the name of Jacqui Dean.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance and asks, what progress is the government making with its share offer program?
Honourable Bill English. Mr Speaker, the government is making good progress on the share offer program. Last night the government set the price for the Mighty River Power share offer at $2.50 per share. The 113,000 New Zealanders were allocated today shares through the retail sales pool, and by Friday night, tomorrow night, the government will have collected $1.7 billion in proceeds, which will be available to the government for investing in other public assets.
Supplementary question, Jacqui Dean.
To the Minister of Finance, how much did the Mighty River Power share offer raise for taxpayers, and how will that money be invested?
Honourable.
Mr Speaker.
Order. Honourable Bill English.
Speaker, there has been, I think, a misunderstanding that somehow in selling shares the government and the taxpayer is losing an asset. In fact, we are swapping shares for cash, and by tomorrow night, the government will have $1.7 billion in its bank account ready to invest in those projects which will be outlined in the budget through the Future Investment Fund. Future proceeds of asset sales will also go into that fund. Parties who want to buy back the assets or not sell them will have to borrow the same amount of money from foreign bankers if they want to invest in the same way this government plans to invest in infrastructure, in hospitals, in schools and in better public services.
Supplementary question, Jacqui Dean.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. What are the benefits of the government's share offer program?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, there are many benefits. In the first place, the government achieved its objective of widespread New Zealand ownership, so 86.5% of this company remains owned by New Zealanders. Secondly, it's provided an opportunity for New Zealand savers to invest their money in the share market, many of them for the first time. Thirdly, we've collected $1.7 billion in cash proceeds, which are available to the government for reinvestment in public assets. And finally, it is a significant move in reinforcing our public capital markets, where Mighty River Power will list as the 5th biggest company on the stock exchange. And a strong public capital market is one of the ingredients for higher incomes and more jobs.
Supplementary question.
Dr Russel Norman, supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Is it not true that Treasury told the government in the budget policy statement that as a result of the government's privatisation program, the government would be worse off by $90 to $100 million every year on a net basis?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, no, that's not correct. Treasury provided a range of measures of the fiscal impact of the sales, some of which were slightly positive, some of which were slightly negative. The government has debated this issue for several years. We came to the view, which I believe has been vindicated, that the sale of 49% of this company will be good for the company, good for the economy, good for the government's books, and help us to avoid the kind of high levels of debt that the opposition seem to favour.
Point of order. Point of order.
Point of order.
I seek leave to table.
Order. Order. I want to hear what the point of order is.
That's right. They'd like
Order.
to leave.
The member has called for a point of order. I want to hear what it is. It will be heard in silence.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. In light of the Minister's denial, I seek leave to table the budget policy statement that shows Treasury says it will cost $90 to $100 million a year.
The budget policy statement is available to all members. Is this a point of order?
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Will the Minister tell the country what the likely dividends are going to be from the replacement investments he's just mentioned in comparison to those dividends now lost from Mighty River Power? And if there is nothing that is equally...
Order.
Oh, so it's interest now, is it?
Order. Would the member please...
Well, the big ears keeps on opening his mouth.
That's right, and that is true. It is not helpful.
Yes.
It is not helpful for an interjection. Would the member please ask his supplementary question?
What will the likely dividends be from the replacement investment that he just referred to with respect to the cash he's getting from Mighty River Power as opposed to that lost from Mighty River Power? And if it's not in any way an equivalent, why does he expect the public to believe the bull dust he's giving us now?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, because it's not bull dust, it's a simple fact. The $1.7 billion collected will be invested through the Future Investment Fund and other public assets. Some of those assets won't pay dividends, such as new schools, new public buildings in Christchurch, new hospitals, and other infrastructure that the government needs to invest in.
Supplementary question, Jacqui Dean.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister of Finance. What reports has he received on alternative policies to the successful share offer program?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, I've seen reports. That's right, I have seen reports of policies not to sell them and reports of a referendum to be held to try and prevent the government selling them, which has so far failed because 1 in 4 of the signatures were dodgy.
Supplementary question, the Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
To the Minister, will he give New Zealanders a guarantee that as a result of this float, excessive power prices will not occur as Mighty River Power looks to pay out up to 110% of its profits as dividends to its private owners, as stated in the 2012 Statement of Corporate Intent?
Honourable Bill English.
I can guarantee the member that the fact that the company is floated has no direct effect on power prices, and that in fact the process of bringing it to the market has turned it into a very efficient, cost-effective company, which will need to compete in the market against other companies in a way that will tend to hold prices down from the very high increases that occurred under that minister's model for the electricity market.
Exactly. Question number 2, Grant Robertson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question